Hi, I'm Kathryn Delaney, and I wanted to share with you a little story about why you should follow your wild ideas. I was inspired to share this story after the reading that I gave this morning. I give daily tarot readings, and this card came up and it reminded me of how help shows up in our lives in mysterious ways. And it inspired me to share a little story about something that showed up in my life. So, about 15 years ago or so, a little bit longer than 15 years ago, I started being a go go dancer and performing in nightclubs with DJs uh, while I was going to college, actually. So, it's probably more like 20 years ago. Um, that I did that. And while I was go-go dancing and performing, I was inspired to learn how to sew and teach myself how to sew. And I started going to a local technical school to learn how to pattern draft and how to use my serger, which my partner at the time's mom gave me for a gift. I had actually gotten my first sewing machine after I took a couple of bags of clothing to a local thrift store and saw a sewing machine there, which seemingly had rays of light surrounding it. And I got my first sewing machine for under 25 bucks because I always wanted to sew. And ever since I was a kid, my mom had been a seamstress. She actually reupholstered couches and furniture, and I made like the little hair scrunchies, the stretchy things that you would put in your hair. But I had never really sewn anything since I was a child. And so, being a performer, I had these visions of different costumes that I wanted to wear that I couldn't even fathom where I might be able to find. And so I started to teach myself how to sew and started to draft my own costumes, and then eventually went to this school to learn how to pattern draft. So while I was in the time period phase of my life of performing, I kept getting this idea around a story that I wanted to share with people through visual representation. Like I wanted to have some kind of play um, that told the story of how we shape ourselves by who we're surrounded by. And when I would share this idea with people, they would reflect to me, wow, that is so, like, I can see this. When are you going to do this? Where are you going to do this? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, this vision just keeps becoming more and more clear in my mind, and I don't know, you know, any of that. And they're like, well, who is in it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And they're like, where are you going to have it? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, well, that's all very silly. And of course, it seemed very silly, but I kept getting a clearer and clearer vision of this story that I wanted to tell through characters. And then after a couple of years of having this vision just be repeated over and over again in my mind, that it would just show up and become more clear. I was at this event because I had stopped go-go dancing and I started performing with this band and doing like more theater with this band. And we were having an event where we were giving a fundraiser for people. And I did what I usually do when I'm not performing, and I'll like claim some space on the dance floor and just dance for hours and be kind of in my own trance state of dancing. And this gentleman came up to me after I was doing that for a few hours, and he was like, I've seen you dancing for a lot of time now. I think it's been several hours that have gone by and you haven't stopped dancing. And I'm like, well, no, like this is how I do my work, my energetic work. And he was like, okay, that's amazing. He's like, I wanted to share with you that I am going to be holding this event and I'll have a stage there, and I want to invite you to do something on it, anything that you could imagine. And I thought to myself, this is wonderful. I can actually put this play on stage that I've been imagining in my mind for so many years. Like, that's great. And I shared with him what it was that I wanted to do in that moment. I was like, this is great. This play I've wanted to do for years. I can maybe do this. And he was like, whatever you want to do. It's like, wow, I have a timeline now. And I think I met him in December, and the event was in July. And so I started asking people that I knew if they wanted to be part of this story and this play that I wanted to have performed in July. And I reached out to people that I had performed with in the past because I had been a go-go dancer, so different people that I had danced with at different clubs. And people were like, yeah, that sounds like fun, I'll do that. And I had people agree, and then the time got closer, and it was probably about 3 months away. And my niece, who I asked to participate in it, she was about 7 at the time. Maybe she was 9, because she's like 23 now. She was like, is this still happening? And because she was getting excited about it, and people were asking me, is this still happening? What's happening? And I was like, oh crap, I really got to get going on this. So I started pulling together all these costumes that I had made, and letting people know. And my family members, my parents, who had been divorced since I was a young kid, both reached out to me, and they're like, what is this thing that I hear that my niece is going to be in this play that you're doing? And, uh, can I come? And I was like, well, sure, that sounds like it should be interesting. Because my parents hadn't been in any place and getting along. Really, they hadn't been in any shared room since they probably went through their divorce and were in a courtroom, and they hadn't gotten along since I couldn't remember how long. So before I knew it, everyone was going to be coming. And so first I want to walk you through what this story is and what the play looked like before I actually tell you the really cool magical part about it. So let's see if we can get this. No. So maybe set up differently. So I want to tell this story about how we shape our personalities by who we're surrounded by. And the opener of the story I had is Ganesh, or the teller of all stories. And so our first character that we have is the Fool, and the Fool gets sent out into the world with their rose-colored glasses and gets dressed by their family members and prepared to go out into the world, complete with their baggage that they're carrying out into the world. And simultaneously, as this part of our personality is going out into the world, we also have our own essence, or the essential part of our nature, which is also being shaped at the same time. But so if you were looking at the stage, on the right side of the stage, you would have this character walking out into the world, and on the left side of the stage, you will have essence, which you'll see in a little bit. But the first character that the Fool goes out and sees in the world is the playful kitty. And the Fool learns how to be playful and how to be silly. And simultaneously, we have Essence at the same time, who is also playing dress up and learning how to take life in a lighter way and be silly. And then we have the peacock come onto the stage, which teaches the Fool how to be so pretty that she's untouchable. And Essence learns how to put on makeup and put on a mask to the world. And the siren of seduction comes onto the stage, entrancing the Fool with dream and illusion. And the witch comes onto the stage, teaching the fool about cruelty and how to be cold. What fear can do to you. We also had a wolf. Ooh, you can't see it from that angle. Let's see if you can see it from this angle. The wolf came onto the stage as well, which was called on by fear. And the little girl essence learned how to be cold and how to be harsh and how to hide within that fear and within that mask. And if you notice, everyone that's coming out has a mask of sorts. We also have the Care Bear, who's basically telling the fool that no matter what is fearful, just be cheerful, shake it off and be happy. And she tries to hypnotize her with dreams of happiness. And pick up the broken fool. In essence, learns how to be playful and how to dance and how to shake off the heaviness of the world. And the machine comes in, ready to pummel and destroy everything in its path. And the phoenix enters to bring upon transformation, burning everything to ashes. And the moth enters, another symbol of transformation. And so the fool gets taken into the dream and taken under the spell of transformation and understanding. And then the sun and the moon come in and reflect upon time and shift things. And the weights of the water and the sun rise and fall over the horizon. And the little girl discovers, because she's been discovering while she's been playing dress up, she discovers that there's a magic within the trunk that shifts her like no other. Signs of time and the reflection of the moon call her to look at herself in a new way. The little girl ends up walking through the mirror, realizing that she's a creature that was so magical that she wanted to see if it was real. She could pass through the mirror itself. And then she began to interact with the fool. So essence began to ultimately start interacting with personality. Personality tried to understand essence. And then, well, essence discovered that there was all this baggage lying around, and she decided to go through it, which pissed personality off quite a bit. She discovered that there were little tiny marbles sitting in the depths of all this baggage. And now all of a sudden, even though personality had been carrying around this baggage for some length of time, she was very interested in knowing what was inside of it. But Essence, being a trickster, made her exchange her rose-colored glasses in order to see what was inside. And within this baggage was a small reminder of personality's own essence, her own connection, her own divine crystal that connected her to something greater than all these things that she was learning how to be. And she and Essence began going through these baggage together. And then the characters came out again. They came out onto stage. And Personality and Essence made each one of them exchange their masks for their own reflection of their own sacred peace and divine essence. The peacock had to give up her mask. The witch had to give up her crown. The machine had to give up her mask. Even the Care Bear had to give up her lollipop. The Phoenix. The moth. And then came in the seed bearer, that which spread the seeds and inspires every one of this sacred piece of us that is growing throughout all of our lives. She came across the unicorn. And reminded her of her own seed. And then she took Personality to the brink of the stage and freed her to go into the world in a different way, hand in hand. With understanding in her heart. After reminding her how truly sacred and precious this life and journey is. So what's interesting about that, and you know, you can tell that I'm tearing up a little bit by like the shaking in my voice, is that something truly magical happened after that, or through that whole experience of being able to share that story. And I do apologize for like trying to figure out how to share the pictures with you. Maybe I'll try to figure out how to do that a little bit better, where it's not so, there's not so much glare, because we do have a video of it. But the piece that is the most magical piece of following my own dream around wanting to create that is that so as I mentioned that in July the play happened, but the previous December I found out that my mom was sick, and my mom was like pretty adamant about not letting anybody stop their lives to go help her. And when I offered, she was like, hell no, you can't stop your life and come to Michigan. And when I was like, okay, well, what would you do if I stood on your doorstep with my suitcases? She was like, well, I'd welcome you in. And I said, great, I'll come and visit you next week. So I was able to visit her. Point being that when she found out that her granddaughter was going to be in this play, she was like, can I come see it? And I was like, of course, Mom, you can come. And same with my dad. He was like, well, my granddaughter's going to be in this play. Can I come see it? And I was like, well, of course you can come. Which is funny because I was one of 4 children and my parents were always busy doing everything. So the thought didn't even cross my mind to invite my parents to come to this play that I was putting together. But the fact that I asked my niece to be in it, they decided that they would come. And so when I went to put on the play, I looked around at the crowd, and for the first time in like, you know, an unknown, like unnumberable number of years, because my parents had always either been separated or, and then they finally got divorced when I was like 11. So in the first time in a really, really, really long time, my entire family was all out watching my play, and they weren't arguing and they were getting along, and it was neutral territory, and it was really beautiful to have everybody there, like my 2 brothers, my sister, my niece, my nephew, my mom, my stepmom, my dad. Everybody was there and everyone was getting along, and it was the first time they had done that in a really long time. And then the following December my mom passed away, and I realized how awesome it really was that that play happened and that it called everybody together. Because had I not followed that, I don't know that that would have happened. And people who were like, that's amazing that you manifested this play, I had thought, it's actually really amazing that I manifested this opportunity for all of my family members to get along. When months later, I realized it was actually the last time any of my siblings got to see my mom. So, you know, I'm emotional, as my aunt would say. I have lots of emotion, um, lots of water in my chart, lots of feels around that story. It's a really powerful story for me, and it. I hope that honestly it inspires you, and this is why I'm sharing it, even as tearful as it is, and hopefully you're not offended by my emotions, and if you are, get over it. I have a lot of water in my chart. And we're human. We're supposed to be emotional. Damn it. That's my speech. So the point is that if you have a wild idea in your heart that sprouts up and you keep coming back to it, you keep getting details for it, follow it, keep visiting it, keep nurturing it, keep talking about it and sharing it, because you don't know ultimately how it's going to manifest, but that's not the problem. And I think that's what this card is all about, is that we have to be able to see and put energy towards what we want to actualize in the world, and to remember that there is energy and help. Literally, because this card is ruled by Jupiter, there is help that is helping us actualize things that is outside of our own doing, that is inside of the universe itself, and that it is anxiously awaiting us to seed it with our heart and our energy and our dreams and our wishes. So believe in it, know that it can happen, and know that you just don't always get control over the timeline. And ultimately, even more amazing things can come out of you actualizing those visions than you had ever possibly envisioned. So I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope that story and that deep share for me inspires you to follow your dreams. Much love to you.